All right, Anna, should we go to our next guest? We're two guests in one show. Crazy. It's time to bring on Jim Williams. Jim is the Vice President and Director of Organizing for the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. That union is at the forefront of the PRO Act, which I discussed last week in my Decode segment. Jim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So can you explain what the PRO Act is and how you guys got involved in that piece of legislation from the very beginning?
Sure. Yeah, the PRO Act is the first piece of legislation to really tackle some of our broken labor laws in this country since really the passage of the National Labor Relations Act. The PRO Act seeks to modernize and update the process by which workers can collectively bargain. Years and years of bad labor laws and labor decisions by the NLRB. It really is what's needed to fix what in this country is broken. We do a lot of work with labor unions across the globe, and when we talk to labor leaders from over in Europe and other places, they're just shocked at how difficult it is for workers here to attain collective bargaining in their industries across the board. And the PRO Act really is the thing that will fix what's broken in this country. I mean, the employers have had the advantage for over 70 years. When the National Labor Relations Act was passed in 1935, it was passed to create a process by which workers would have easier access to collective bargaining. And over the generations, they've made it so much harder. The election processes that we're currently seeing now, like even the workers in Bessemer, Alabama, that are going through an organizing drive with Amazon, the things that management is allowed to do to dissuade workers from collectively bargaining and joining a union it really shouldn't happen in a country as developed as the United States. So the PRO Act, passed the House last year, but our union, we made it the number one priority of our legislative agenda because we know it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to get through the Senate. Labor unions themselves cannot get this bill passed on its own. There has to be a real movement amongst workers in general, specifically workers that are not a member of a union right now but want to. And the PRO Act, it's going to be a campaign that may take some time. The National Labor Relations Act didn't happen in 1935 overnight because unions wanted it to happen. It happened because there was a movement amongst workers.
You're right about that. And, a theme that comes up quite a bit on this show is the lack of labor power in this country relative to before, and so the question is, what kind of strategy, given weakened labor in this country, thanks to things like the Taft-Hartley Act and all of that, what is the strategy for your, for your union? And I know you're working with other unions to try to apply pressure and get this passed in the Senate. Are you guys thinking about that? And what exactly do you think could happen if you implement this strategy?
So I think strategically, after the elections, obviously it was going to be important that we weighed in down in Georgia. And the two Senate folks that won in Georgia have already pledged their support for the PRO Act. I think we all knew that had we not gained a Democratic majority leader in Chuck Schumer, that there would be no way Mitch McConnell would put the PRO Act up for a vote if he was still majority leader. So I think we got to a point where we know that the Republicans are going to filibuster no matter what, or are going to attempt to filibuster no matter what. We're going to have to put pressure, not only on Democrats that maybe haven't pledged their support yet, but on the Republican senators in states where unions are strong. It was great to get the support of both Warnock and Ossoff in a southern state like Georgia for the PRO Act. That was a huge step in the right direction. But we are calculating it's going to take a real strong national debate and national movement for the PRO Act to get through. We don't have to look that far into our history. The Employee Free Choice Act in 2009, it passed a Democratic-controlled House in 2008, passed again in 2009, and it was filibustered and never voted upon in the Senate. And at that time, the majorities in the Democratic majorities were even bigger. It's going to require a real movement, a real coalition, targeted activity, national pressure. The business community is going to spend millions and millions of dollars to push back. They already have, and they're going to continue to. So we calculated we really need a strong coalition, the same type of coalition that got the 2 senators elected in Georgia, and the same work that Stacey Abrams has done over the years to engage working class voters in a different way. That's what it's going to take to push the PRO Act forward.
You mentioned the EFCA back in 2008, 2009, and the Democrats at the time had a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate. So I guess I wanted to ask about your relationship to the Democratic Party. You mentioned that had the Democrats not won both the White House and the Senate, and this one, something like the PRO Act wouldn't even be anywhere near the agenda. But on the other hand, the Democrats, when they did have the chance in 2008 and 2009 to do something, they didn't. So this is something that is discussed a lot in the Jacobin world, is like what is our relationship to the Democratic Party? I mean, we can't become Republicans, but how do you see that relationship working? I guess is my question.
Yeah, it's like we all know that our relationships are the lesser of two evils, right? I think what we have to learn is that the Employee Free Choice Act should serve as the template. I remember, I'm from Pennsylvania, and I remember at the time, I think there was a 58 or 59 person majority with the Democratic Party at the time. Arlen Specter was a United States Senator, a Republican from the state of Pennsylvania. And Arlen Specter single-handedly kind of killed the bill and said he couldn't support it. And he was a vote that was kind of considered a swing voter. And what was hilarious was within 6 months of that, he switched party affiliations to Democratic and received the support of labor unions back home in the state of Pennsylvania. It blew my mind that one person could have single-handedly done that and then still receive the support of the labor movement. We have to be very, very mindful of who we support and where we put our monies and efforts. Our union has chosen not to financially support or give any sort of grassroots support to any federal candidate that does not support the PRO Act from today into the future. That's how important it is for us. Often politicians can pick us apart by saying, hey, we're going to do a great infrastructure deal. Hey, we're going to help, pass relief for healthcare. All of those things, they're scraps. We need labor law reform, and we need it today. And if the movement can come together and demand that of our politicians, it shouldn't matter what party they come from.
Well, that leads me to, I think the most important question, which is, for everyone watching this right now, for everyone who wants to take part in this fight and this effort, what can our viewers do to help support labor right now? Many listeners agree that reviving the labor movement is important, but they don't really know how to get involved. Do you have any recommendations for that?
Yeah, and I think it holds true that a younger generation of workers want to be members of unions, and then educating them that it's almost impossible in certain industries because of our labor laws. Having those types of conversations with activists and with the progressive community is so important. That's why we launched our campaign. We have a website, passtheproact.org. We have a growing coalition of folks outside the labor movement. There will be actions that can be taken online. There's going to be an event this Tuesday down in Washington, D.C., where we're going to be launching some of the efforts around our campaign. I personally believe it's going to be a couple years of a struggle for us to move the PRO Act across the finish line. Hopefully, maybe I'm wrong, but you can never prepare for something like that. So, I would advise people get involved. Join the passtheproact.org, sign up for alerts, sign up for updates, engage locally with the labor movement and with the coalition that we're putting together. because I think the time is right. You know, right now they say 67 to 68% of workers in this country, if given the opportunity, would form a union in their workplace. The sad part is nobody knows how to and doesn't really know the challenges to actually achieving that. And by engaging in the PROACT campaign and dialogue, I think more and more workers are going to see what it will take to form unions going into the future in different industries and different segments of the economy.
Well, I think that's a good place to leave it. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be sure to have you back on to give us updates on your progress. You know, when I did my segment on the PROACT last week, I did research to find cable news segments about it, and I found exactly zero. So you can count on us to cover it, and you'll always have a home here.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you.